Oh, good morning, everyone. Um, I'm not sure my live stream is showing up on Instagram. I mean, most people tune in through YouTube, Facebook, or um, yeah, I don't think I'm actually connecting to Instagram. I got to figure that out. I'm also able to live stream, I think, over TikTok. So maybe I'll try that. Who knows? Who knows? This one, I didn't give people notice this time. I didn't know I was going to do one this morning. And last time I had some time to plan ahead and schedule it. And people said that that was sort of helpful, so I kind of want to see I want to kind of see how many people show up if I do these sort of impromptu or if I schedule them in advance. I'm sure scheduling in advance is probably better for a lot of people, so I might try to do that a little bit more frequently going forward. I just realized this painting of a very this is one of my paintings, a very scary face is in back of me, and it's interesting. Um, Good morning if you're just joining. It's interesting. A little bit of an interesting story. There's two painting. Well, there's a bunch of paintings behind me, and there's that painting. They're all the ones you can see are mine. Um, I was sitting in the other room last night and I hear this weird sound coming from in here. And um, the cat and dog were in the same room with me in the other room, and they will make noise and mess with things and whatever. And I come in here, and one of my paintings had fallen off the wall, not this one, the first time, and was about, it had landed quite a distance from where it was on the wall. And I was like, huh, well, that's interesting, but I guess that can happen and, whatever. So I go and I sit down. And then the second painting, this one, and they were both portraits, fell a couple minutes later and heard it. I was like, okay. Getting a little bit of a message from spirit at this point, which is appropriate for what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to talk about helping spirits and spirit guides and what they are. Of course, everything I talk about is through a shamanic lens because that's my practice. That's what I do. That is my form of spirituality. It's what I teach and um, what I practice. So, good morning if you're just joining. I have noticed that there's a peak of people joining around the 7-minute mark. So whatever systems are going on out there, it's usually about 7 minutes before most people join one of these lives. But that doesn't mean I'm going to make you wait around 7 minutes to before I start talking about the topic of today. The topic of today is helping spirits and spirit guides. Now, in core shamanism, which is the form of shamanism I practice, we tend not to use the word spirit guides. We use the word helping spirits, or frequently, at least in my teaching lineage, you will see people very often abbreviate things. So HS is helping spirits, PA is power animal, UW is upper world, LW is lower world. So you get used to that over a period of time. But I'm not going to, I don't assume people tuning in have any idea what I'm talking about. You may know way more than I do, and that's totally fine. But I get people from all walks of life with different levels of experience. And so I'm going to talk about it from a shamanic perspective, but a lot of people use the term spirit guides. Um, I don't I don't generally or always use that term, but I will tend to I'll defer to it because or refer to it. Sorry, just checking the message here. Um, I will refer to it just because that's a term that is in common use and people use that quite a lot, and they use it frequently to mean the same thing as a helping spirit. So let me get into it a little bit. Um, So shamanism, I'm going to talk about shamanism just a little bit, just because I think it's important to have some background information. So shamanism, my understanding, my explanation of shamanism, the practice of shamanism, the tool, the main thing that I would say, if somebody is doing this, they're doing shamanism. They're shamanizing is a verb I've heard people use. And so has three components. And this is something that comes from anthropological studies of shamans across cultures and across time and that sort of thing. Three things. One, really important, an altered state of consciousness. Seems to be a very specific shamanic state of consciousness that is unique. It's not the same thing as meditation. It's not the same thing as being on psilocybin, although it is very close. It is analogous to being on psilocybin, or DMT or ayahuasca, even though I realize some cultures use that in their journeying. And that's the term we use for the main shamanic tool is called journeying. So, and enter an altered state of consciousness. Part of our consciousness leaves our body and travels in spiritual reality. There are different terms from this from different cultures. In Celtic belief, there was the other world. Um, in Norse belief, there are 9 different worlds that they recognize on the world tree. Um, However, interestingly, apparently, like you could get to some of them physically, like you could, travel to hell, which is not the same hell from Christianity, but hell, the realm of the dead. You could travel there physically if you knew how to get there. So it's kind of an interesting concept. And a lot of there are a lot of stories from Norse mythology. Good morning, if you just joining, about people going to hell to speak with. Odin goes into hell to speak with a deceased witch or prophetess, a volva. That's where the vol songs come from, which is or no, the voluspa. I'm mixing up my Norse stuff. Um, so, altered states of consciousness, travel in spiritual reality, spirit travel. Some people have asked, is that similar to astral travel? Yes, it is, but there are some key differences. And thirdly, we work with helping spirits. We always work with spirits in general. I don't know of shamanic cultures where the shaman does the work on their own without helping spirits. So shamans work very, very closely with spirits, and there are many different kinds of helping spirits, which is why I tend not to use the word spirit guides, even though that is a common term that people kind of use to overlap, because not all of helping spirits act as guides. Some absolutely, some act as teachers, some help in other ways. So, with many, many different types of helping spirits, and that's not just people who practice shamanism. Everybody has helping spirits or spirit guides. Um, you just might not be conscious of them. So, who and what are they? So, again, there's a huge variety, but generally speaking, these are spiritual beings. We are spiritual beings, but we have a body, right? So, if I work with you as a teacher, I'm not your spirit guide because I'm still, clinging to this mortal coil at the moment. I could be a guide, I could be a teacher, I could be a mentor, I could serve as a protector. And that's probably a good way to think about it. Think about like people in your life that serve different roles, right? So you might have, I don't have one, but you might have a bodyguard, right? Somebody who serves to protect you and keep you safe and keep your um, so that's a good question. In my teaching lineage, one does not refer to oneself as a shaman. So I uh, will refer to myself as a shamanic teacher or shamanic practitioner or shamanic healer. but I don't use the word shaman to refer to myself. And that's just a little bit of thing from my teaching. Do the teachers do the teachers show up with a whiteboard? They can. They certainly can. They certainly can show up in all kinds of different ways, and sometimes they're very funny. I have helping spirits who are incredibly funny. So sometimes spiritual teachers will show up with some props, and anything can happen in the spiritual world. So so we have all kind like I was saying, we have all kinds of helping spirits. Like, you have people in your life. I frequently describe spirits as non-human people, right? They don't have body. They might be deceased humans, or they might be non-human. They might be other type. There are countless varieties of spirits out there. We think of spirits as frequently, gods, goddesses, angels, demons, deceased humans, and those are some groups of spirits. But there are nature spirits and spirits of place, and uh, interdimensional beings, and that sort of thing. And I think we're getting to a phase, probably not any time in our lifetimes, but maybe in the next few generations, where some of this will be explained scientifically. I just realized that in the title of this talk, I misspelled the word "your." I'm apologizing for that. So, um, so we have all these spirits, and like people in our lives, they can play sometimes different roles, right? So we have people in our lives that are ancestors, right? Some of us still, my grandmother passed away a year ago. She was 106, but she was an ancestor, an elder, in my family, held a lot of wisdom. Gosh, somebody who lived that long and went through as much, lived through the Spanish influenza, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, like everything, all kinds of stuff in between. Went from horse-drawn carriages to electric self-driving cars. Went from, not that she owned an electric self-driving car, but you can imagine the changes somebody has been through, and the wisdom that they hold, and the things that they've seen. So we have ancestral spirits, helping spirits. We all have them. Um, so the question is, somebody asked the question, are you spiritually in tune? Well, I like to believe I am, but I think um, I do my best to be in tune with spirit, to be spiritually in tune. It's part of what I do. It's part of my job to be spirit. So I'm not precisely sure what you mean by that question, but that's my answer. I do my best. I try to be in tune with spirit. I try to be in tune with nature. From a shamanic perspective, everything is a spirit. Some things have physical representation. So um, when I see a tree or a rock or experience the wind, those are spirits to me, even though they have physical presence. Not all spirits have physical presence, and these are things that we generally refer to as spirits. But so helping spirits, you have ancestral helping spirits. Everybody has power animals, which is a shamanic term. Some people use the term spirit animal. Um, I, I stick to power animal because what people think about when they think of a spirit animal is often not the same thing as when I'm talking about power animals. So, power animals are individual animals who passed away, who lived on Earth, passed away, and have volunteered to come back and help you and whoever they're helping through their life. So, um, that's a little bit of a distinction from a spirit animal, which frequently is just an animal that people have an affinity for, right? Like, I've seen a lot of jokes about there's a great one, with like lots of great ones with like raccoons, like who eat everything, and people are like, this raccoon's, eating a pizza is my spirit animal. But it's not a power animal because it's still alive, first of all, and there's this very specific ceremony called the power animal retrieval that connects you with your animal spirits. So you have animal spirits. Um, they generally reside in what we call the lower world. And so again, there are three main worlds in most shamanic traditions, although there really are an infinite number of spiritual worlds. It's like layer upon layer upon layer of reality. So there are lots and lots of spiritual worlds, many, but we recognize most traditions recognize at least three. And so we have the lower world, which is a very natural world, and it's full of animal spirits and that sort of thing. And that's where our power animals tend to hang out, although they can travel between worlds. And we have the middle world, which is the spiritual overlay of the world that we live in, the physical world. It's like, if you were to project, if you had a painting and you were to project something onto it, the painting is actually the middle world, and the projection onto it is physical reality. Um, that's my perspective. That's one perspective. And then there's the upper world, and the upper world is normally where we find human or human-like helping spirits. So these could be ancestral, they could be gods or goddesses or angels. They could be sometimes they're very abstract. They weren't human at some point, so there are all kinds of them, and so they have that's my cat, Phoebe. She likes to she's on her little cat condo back there. Hi, Phoebe. I call her a shaman cat. She likes to get involved when I do these lives or when I'm talking to clients or working with students. Very, very often. So um anyway, we all have a ton of helping spirits, people that are looking out for us. A really important category of helping spirits, and this shows up across cultures, are ancestors. Um, and so this is a question. Wind, water, earth, fire, and lightning are all gods. War, famine, death, pestilence are gods. Shamanism can speak with ghosts or ancestors. Which one are you tuned into, or all? So that's an interesting question and an interesting perspective. Uh, I by tune in, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by tune into, but I work with pretty individual helping spirits. I work with ancestors. I work with power animals. I work sometimes with nature spirits. So I sometimes work with fire spirits or um, wind, water, spirit of the earth, that kind of thing. If you want to consider them gods, that's totally cool. Um, I I probably have a little bit of a different definition of gods and goddesses than you might, and that's okay. It's just different perspective. But um, so I work with lots and lots and lots of helping spirits, and very often when I'm working with a client, I'm working with their helping spirits. But I do work with elemental spirits. I work with nature spirits. I work with ancestral spirits, power animals. I've worked with angelic spirits. I've worked with spirits that some people might be consider demons. The word demon, by the way, is from the Greek, and it just means spirit. In ancient Greek, all you would have a household demon. You would have a household spirit. Um, and you might have, and there were spirits that were helpful and spirits that were harmful, and they were all demons because that's the word, or the word is daemon actually, but that the English word demon comes directly from that. Um, So I have worked with household spirits. I've worked with deceased humans. Oftentimes, the work that I do involves what we call psychopomp work, which is psychopomp is another Greek word or two Greek words meaning guide of souls. And a psychopomp is a person or spirit who generally guides souls to where they belong after they've died. So there are psychopomps in lots of different mythological systems. So Charon, the ferryman from Greek mythology, is a psychopomp because he guides the souls across the river Styx to to the afterlife. Um, Saint Peter, I guess, in Christianity might be considered a psychopomp. He's more of a gatekeeper, I guess. In some spiritual traditions, crows and ravens are psychopomps, carry the soul to the afterlife. Um, but there are people who fit that role as well, and so I've worked with people to help loved ones cross over after they've passed away, or to when I do something I do pretty frequently is space clearing, or uh, house clearing, space clearing. So clearing a building of unwanted energy, unwanted spirits, that sort of thing. Um, and frequently that involves psychopomp work, guiding stuck spirits to where they belong. Um, in my tradition, we don't really go into battle with spirits, that kind of thing. I know there are other shamanic traditions where that's the case. Um, but I tend to we'll say, I begin with treating spirits like clients. So if I run into a stuck spirit somewhere, that spirit is a suffering being, and we help that suffering being get to where they're supposed to be. Being stuck is no fun for anybody, spirit or physical person or whatever. Um, um, who are the main Maori gods? Yeah, I don't know anything. I mean, I know like this much about Maori culture. Oh, you are Maori. Yeah, okay, cool. I would love to talk to you sometime. I'm sure I could learn a tremendous amount from you. Um, yeah. Um, Maori culture is extremely fascinating to me. Um, and I love everything I've ever seen or read about it. But I don't know. I live on the other side of the planet and don't have a tremendous amount of knowledge of Maori culture. Um, but yeah, that's pretty fascinating. Yeah. So I don't know anything. I don't know anything about the Maori gods and goddesses, I guess. I don't know if you call them all gods or gods and goddesses or whatever. But I am always willing to learn more. Um, I think indigenous cultures like the Maori, like the Aboriginal cultures in Australia, like the indigenous cultures throughout the Americas, have a tremendous amount to teach us, not just spiritually, but also um, how to live in harmony. You got to figure any culture that can survive um, for a really, really long time, thousands of years, in sometimes, I guess, New Zealand, maybe, I don't know if you consider it a harsh environment, but there are cultures that existed in extremely harsh environments for thousands of years, have a lot to teach the world, a tremendous amount to teach the world. So, I'm wondering, maybe you can answer this question. Is there a Maori word for what we would use the word shaman for? So uh, in Hawaiian, for example, you might use the word kahuna um, with interchangeably with the word shaman, although the word kahuna is I think, much broader term and applies to lots of different expertise, but certainly there is a spiritual component to that. Interesting. Shamanism I sincerely apologize if I'm pronouncing any Maoism are essentially the same spiritually. Well, you have set me off on a new learning path. I'm going to learn as much as I can about Maori spirituality. Do you know if there's a term for like a person who fills the role of shaman in the Maori language? I'd be really curious about that. I have a list. I might even have it written down somewhere. I have I keep lists of different terms um, from different languages of what people use for the word shaman. So, for example, in Mongolia, the word is bo. Um, I think if you're male, and I think there's a different word if you're female. And uh, shaman, and I'm not remembering too many. I'm not remembering too many others at this point. But I keep a list just because I'm interested in all cultures, particularly shamanic cultures. So very interested in um, in that in that perspective, and um, you know how open is Maori culture to sharing with outsiders? Tohunga, okay. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Tohunga. Um, awesome, awesome. I'm gonna go down that path. I'm gonna do more research and find out more about that. So, I always love when people come in here. Everybody knows a lot more about something than I do, and so when people come in here, it is an opportunity for me to learn from you as well as for me to pass on what I know to others. So it's a great experience for me to learn about Maori culture and Maori um I don't know if you would say Maori shamanism or some other term for it, but Tohunga, I'm gonna do some research today. Thank you for setting me on a learning path. And I think if we're not appropriating culture, and I do want to speak about cultural appropriation a little bit. Um, all cultures adapt and learn from other cultures and that sort of thing, and we get words like the word shaman. It is now an English word. It's been in the English language for 325 years. However, it came into English from Russian and German. Before that, it came from the Tungsik speaking people of Siberia. And we don't really know where it came from before that. But if I were to, even though I practice shamanism, if I were to dress as a Siberian shaman and put on the affect of a Siberian shaman and pretend that I was trained in Siberian shamanism, and I am not, that is misappropriation, and it's harmful, right? I would never. I've had people who didn't understand what I do say you're appropriating Native American religion. And I do not practice or teach Native American Indigenous American religion at all. And if I found out that something I was doing was or representing myself in some way, in fact, when I teach intro to shamanism, I have worked a section into that class where I talk about this is not what I am teaching you has nothing to do with Native American culture. Not to say there aren't shamans in Native American culture. There are, but I am not teaching you their ceremonies. I'm not teaching you their traditions. I'm not teaching you about their religion. First of all, I don't know enough about it, but second, I don't belong to that culture, and that would be cultural appropriation or cultural misappropriation is a better term. Something like 80% of the words in English are loan words, meaning they came in from other languages. England, go back in time, and England was invaded by everybody, right? So the language that we think of as English going back in time is actually a Germanic language because people brought it there. Germanic tribes brought it there. but then, the Romans invaded, and then the Normans invaded, who were Vikings, but they spoke French, and then French became the language of the time. And then as English colonized, England colonized the rest of the world, they picked up things from all of these different languages. And so a lot of again, 80% of English words are borrowed in from other languages. So um anyway, just a brief talk today, but I just wanted to go through a little bit about who we're talking about. We're talking about helping spirits, or spirit guides. And I do want to, if you're watching the replay of this sometime in the future, you may miss out on this because this is a timed thing. But I will make a brief announcement that I have a course coming up called Energy Body Alchemy, which is energy body work through the lens of spiritual alchemy, the processes of alchemy. That's coming up February. Begins Monday, February 26th. Registration would close on Sunday, February 25th. If you're seeing this and you're interested, you can go to my website, which I'll actually link to below the video, or you can, find me. It's mainshaman.com. And you can find information there. And I'm excited about it. It's a 28-day course, involves one Zoom call a week for 4 weeks, and a different email every single day, which will give you a short exercise, a short meditation, a teaching, and a reflection, and as well as a private Facebook community for people who are in the course to gather and ask questions and chat and connect and that sort of thing. So it's the first time I'm doing something like this. I've put just a mind-boggling amount of work into this course. You can imagine like creating essentially 28 chapters of the course and setting up Zoom calls and setting up email lists and all of that sort of thing. So if that feels like something that you might be interested in, you can get more information on my website. I've kept it quite affordable. It's $27 US, which I realize is a stretch for some people, but in the realm of things, like a lot of courses these days are $100, $200, $300. I'm actually paying, right now, I'm doing a course in Norse shamanism that is $100 a month for 9 months. So it's all told like $1,000 I'm in. So I feel like I try to keep my stuff as affordable as I can, while still respecting my time and the fact that I need to earn a living from what I do. So with that, I don't want to turn this into too much of a sales pitch. If you're interested, check it out. You can ask me questions through my website, or catch me on Facebook, or what have you. Sometimes people ask me questions over YouTube. I'm probably a little slower to get back over YouTube. I'm pretty good, but with that, I'm going to leave you for the day. I hope you all have a great weekend. Love to all of you, and we'll talk to you very